Be ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Many people associate America as a land of liberty and they look upon you, Mr. President, as a leader who has sought to restore the relevance of moral and spiritual values. The year just ended will long be remembered in the annals of our two nations. The people of the United States of America elected you to the White House to heal the wounds of a decade of conflicts and divisions in India. Our general elections gave proof that in a democracy, the will of the people is the ultimate arbiter of power. Your visit provides the opportunity to establish closer personal contacts between the newly elected and like minded leaders of our two countries and to strengthen the deep affinities between us. Notwithstanding the ideals which we share, we have varied emphasis in our priorities, in our international preoccupations. Paradoxically, the very adherence to similar political systems has at times exaggerated our misunderstandings and blurred our affinities. The world situation as it has materially changed. Many new countries have attained independent nationhood, detente, coexistence, and even cooperation between countries with different political and social systems have come to be recognized as having a good logic for our interdependent planet. Ideologies are in the process of being domesticated and pluralism amongst nations is seen as a factor of stability rather than a threat to international peace. The prospect of nuclear war has given a new meaning to the search for peace on the earth. Non-alignment is much less misunderstood if there is a bipolarity today. It is between forces seeking stability and cooperation and those which seek to obstruct orderly and progressive solutions to the world problems. The growing chasm between the developing and developed world may in the future lead to increased dangerous tensions. The world of the rich and the poor face a common doom if we cannot act together to protect the earth, the air, and waters from plunder and pollution that we have admired in the short period of our presidency is your sensitivity not just to the problems of your own country but the dark shadows on peace and international stability. You have made the international community aware of the rights of individuals, be they at home in or in other distant lands, and the responsibilities we have to uphold the common man's inherent demand for liberty, equality, and justice in this world. Mr. President, we recognize that the role India can play in the resolution of international problems can only come from dynamic economic growth and the establishment of unequitable society in our own land. Our people have demonstrated the capacity to learn and to innovate, but to fulfill their modest expectations is in itself a gigantic task. Our achievements, however, give us courage and confidence. We have laid the foundations for our progress on a wide front covering principally agriculture, industry, and more important, the indigenization of scientific and technological know-how. Our economy has relieved of the endemic anxieties arising from the paucity of food production and difficulties in balance of payments, we are in the process of reviewing our priorities so that a greater share of the benefits of the planned socio-economic development reach the economically weaker sections of society. We have recognized the dangers from uncontrolled urbanization and are determined to make our villages economically resilient, so, resilient social and economic transformation through democratic methods may at times appear slow. Certainly, in a democratic setup, failure attracts more attention both at home and abroad than progress actually made towards social and economic goals. We seek neither to minimize our tasks nor conceal our failures. We are fully convinced that in the end, a democracy gathers vigor from open dissent and a consensus makes for firmer foundations. What we ask of the international community, and that too as a supplement to our own national efforts, is constructive cooperation, or at least a benign understanding of our endeavors. On the wider canvas, my government remains faithful to the fundamental principles of our foreign policy, the, remnants of colonialism and racialism where they still exist must go. Racialism, which certainly persists in Africa in defiance of international opinion, must give way to governments representative of the majority. We believe this is no time for increasing but rather arresting and eliminating great power employment in the hitherto tension free areas such as the Indian Ocean. We welcome the negotiations between the United States and the Soviet Union on the limitations of strategic weapons and efforts to consolidate detente. Faithful to the spirit of the United Nations Charter, India will always be on the side of the peaceful resolution of international disputes. We are determined to be true to the friendships which have served our national interests. We are equally convinced that in keeping with contemporary realities, we can widen and intensify our relations to mutual advantage with many countries. Peace will remain fragile if nuclear weapons capable of such annihilative destruction are stockpiled and multiplied. We also appreciate the concern